Hi, Fahad.
Hi, Kritulan. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I am good, thank you.
Thank you for joining us today for Ask the Expert session.
Yeah, I think my fellow Shrayev is also going to be joining in a couple of minutes.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you everyone else for joining as well. So if you have any questions for the CTAs on our panel today, feel free to add your questions either in the chat or in the question answer section on the right side of the screen.
Hi everyone, Shrayu here. Can you hear me? Well,
Hi, Shayu. Yes, we can hear
hi.
you. All right. So I think we can start now. Um, Thanks again, Fahad and Shayu, for joining us today for the Ask the Experts panel. We'll be taking the questions from our audience as well, and we also have a couple of questions prepared for both of you. So we can start from there, I think. Okay, so if you can just give us a quick introduction of yourself, that would be, I think, a great starting point.
Cool. I'll go first. So, hi everyone, this is Shrayu Sable. I'm a senior manager with Accenture Australia. I've been working in technology for around 14 years now. Started my journey as a Java developer, and then since 2010 have been working on Salesforce, and I passed my CTA in 2019. I also lead the Women in Tech group in Melbourne and lead the CTA Academy Accenture locally over here. Fahad, over to you.
Thanks, Shrayu. Kritulan, Shrayu, as you know, my name is Fahad. I've been with Accenture for almost 8 years now. My role with Accenture is senior manager. I've been in Salesforce ecosystem for roughly about 12 years now. And Kritulan, just for the background, I worked in Pakistan for about 3.5 years, and then moved to Australia. And I got my CTA certification in 2019.
Thank you, Fahad and Shayu, for your introduction. Definitely very inspiring for all of us. So I'll be going through a couple of questions here. Either one of you can take them. So the first question that we received from our social media handles, the first one was, what inspired you to become a CTA?
You go first, Shrayu.
Cool. So, for me, I don't think there was a tipping point where I thought that I wanted to be CTA, having played the architect role for a few years and getting exposure across various domain. I just felt I wanted to take up a challenge, given CTA is one of the most challenging exam. But yeah, and it wasn't, I wouldn't say, a very conscious decision. I was on a very good project, getting good exposure, and I thought, why not? Let me go ahead and sit for it. And luckily enough, I passed it. So which I'm really humbled and proud about. Yeah.
So for me, just answering the same question, when I thought I should become a technical architect, I think I started my career in Pakistan as a developer. I initially worked on multiple different types of CRM, and then ended up in Salesforce ecosystem. And I think I loved the platform. I think roughly about 2011 or 12 is when I started working on the Salesforce. And I think considering when you start your career as a developer, your natural progression is that you become a tech lead or a senior developer, and then you ended up being an architect. So I think it was always in back of my head that I would become a technical architect one day. And when the certification came in, suddenly, become like a target that, if I need to get there, probably that's a credential I need to have. And then of course, it took me a couple of years to be able to get there. In 2019, I achieved certification, but I started working as an architect way before that.
Thank you for sharing that. So the next question is kind of related to it. So as all of us know that CTA is the, extreme tip of the pyramid. So the next question is that now that you have achieved CTA, what is your next goal?
Okay, I'll go first. I think for me, one thing which CTA has taught me is that the Salesforce platform is so vast. So it's ever evolving. Like with every release, you can see there are new features and products that get released. So I think what next? Not a lot has changed in my role. I still play the same architect role, but I think you get a sort of a credibility with your clients and customers and your colleagues. But I think what next is using the knowledge that I've learned via CTA in helping clients solve their business challenges, being on bigger and larger transformation projects, and also helping other colleagues who want to achieve the certification.
Yeah, pretty much along the same line. I think achieving CTA certification, I see that as a milestone. Salesforce platform, as Shah you mentioned, is ever growing. And when you are on a client and when you are CTA, there are expectations from you that you would know different applications on Salesforce platform, which means there is now more pressure to learn and gain new certification and expertise and still continue to justify the CTA certification even after you've achieved it. Because even in the last couple of years, Salesforce have made some big and significant acquisitions, and the platform is growing not just by adding functionality, by just adding different tools and technologies in it as well. And apart from that, yes, considering it's a significant milestone, and Shrayu is a local CTA Epic lead, helping our local candidates getting the certification, and I've got global responsibility to be able to help new candidates be able to achieve that. So there are two parts to it: help others, and also continue to make sure that we have those expertise and we are still in touch with the technology.
Thank you, Fahad. That's certainly a refreshing thing or a new thing to hear, that CTA exactly is not kind of the end of the line. It is certainly, opens up more doors for more learning and more exploration in the future. So the next question is that, as you have achieved this goal of being a CTA, someone who is just starting out with Salesforce or is at somewhere in their journey and they aspire to become CTA in future, what would be your one or more tips to them, or what would be, your message to them who are on this journey right now?
So I'll go ahead. So I think the first one would be obviously ensure you're in a right role, because I think the real life experience cannot is very important in the CTA journey. So it's very important that you are with the right client, right role. You're getting exposure to all those architect concepts. I think I was pretty lucky that I was on a very big transformation project when I started prepping. In terms of tips, I think I'll give a few. One being, take your domain certifications very seriously. Understand the concepts. Don't treat them just like another exam where you just want to pass it. Like really understand the concepts on. I always use the thing about why, what, when. Anything I learn about, try and understand why is this feature in which particular business scenario, or what challenge would you solve with it. And the other thing is, be open to learning. Don't rush. This is a long journey, so enjoy the learning process. Don't really have a hard day that this is by when I would like to sit for the exam, because you will never feel prepared. But just learn the um, enjoy the learning process that you're going through. So I think those are my two key tips I would give. Fahad,
I
over
think
to you.
anyone who's starting their journey, I think there are Salesforce CTA exam have got three key parts to it. One, which Rayu touched on, which is around the technology, and I think she literally outlined the framework that everybody needs to have is what, when, how, why. It's actually going to make sure that you've got a point of view of everything that you are learning, because over a period of time, couple of years, you need to have that point of view on everything that you need to talk about, because you'll be facing clients, you'll be talking to head of architectures, head of solutions, and you need to explain those concepts to them. So you really need to understand them. You just don't need to know about them. You need to have a point of view about them and to use them. So those sort of things and those sort of repositories someone needs to start building as and when they are working on different projects. The other two key things which are really important if someone who's starting their journey is to be able to make sure that they're getting enough exposure to be able to present in front of the client, because presentation is one of the key part of the CTA exam. And the third most important thing is communication, which I see those who are coming from development background, I think they lack, because they don't get to see a lot of client. Most of the time they are writing code. So having extraordinary in technical capabilities, but I think it lacks in communication, which then once they build all the technical knowledge, it takes them a bit of a time to be able to communicate and ace that in the exam. So I think for me, those are the three things, and you need to start thinking about them now and preparing for them now to be able to complete and round out your preparation.
Thank you. That are certainly great tips. I think the technical aspect is there, but as you said, that communication plays an important role as well, and also making sure that you are, taking all the concepts into account while you are learning a cloud or learning a concept. Great. So, next question that I have with me is that how how deep knowledge of each cloud is required to be able to pass the CTA exam? I mean, do we need to cover all the clouds that are available out there? Do we need to, have um, kind of understanding of all of them, or some particular one of them in more depth or in more detail?
So this is a tricky one, right? I think obviously if you look at the study guide, and I think that's the starting point for anyone, right? Um, the 5 to 6 domains that you have there, obviously you need to know them in and out. And then I think when we start talking about cloud, I think your service, sales, experience cloud is a must have. You need to know that in and out, I would say. And then comes things like FSL and CPQ. And I know a lot of people ask these questions, or you have this financial services cloud, and now you have health cloud and so many other. In my opinion, it's really hard if you've not worked in those areas to really know them in and out because they're pretty vast. But understanding that domain is very important. So the approach I took was just going and understanding their data models about how they're configured, even if you can't really know each and every feature that's available. Some of them are key. I would call out like FSL, CPQ are pretty key to understand, but some others just go and understanding the domain side of things, how the data model gets configured. So if you've not ever worked into health industry, and if you get a scenario which is health related, you might just may not understand the terminology. So it's very important to just understand the concepts. I feel you may not really, if you have time, obviously go and learn about it. Use Trailhead. It's good to learn about things, but just knowing the basics is important, and the concept and the domain is important, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think as Shra you highlighted, I think there is no clear direction on what's in scope of the exam and what's out. Considering Salesforce have made some significant acquisitions, for example, Tableau, it's not very clear as, should I know about Tableau? What, probably yes, you should know how Tableau is used. But then there are some clouds which are certain, for example, Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Shra you mentioned, Field Service, Lightning, CPQ, and they have been there in ecosystem for a long time now, for last 8-10 years. For sure, anything which is new, you are expected to know the use case, but even if you don't know anything in detail, you probably would be okay. But as different applications are getting deeply integrated with platform, it depends upon how long that application became part of Salesforce ecosystem. If it's something recent, probably not as much, but if it has been there for a long time, I think you are expected to know about that.
I think we
Prathalan,
lost
we
you.
are not able to hear you. We lost you.
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute.
Mhm.
The classic of online meetings. Okay. I just said that thank you for your in detailed answers. It really covers the question really well. Like there is no key or shortcut to it. You need to kind of go through the key core concepts and make sure you are know the ins and outs of them. My next question would be where the CTAs hang out. So do you hang out at Trailhead as well? Where, if you have to learn something or I mean, you are gaining so much knowledge and then retention or, going through those concepts again. So, do the CTAs hang out at the trailhead as well?
Oh, so I use Trailhead all the time. Like a lot of times when I'm going into client meetings, and there are things I know, but I want to understand it in and out because you may not remember everything on top of your head, be it limits or anything. You just want to understand. So I use Trailhead all the time. Help, Salesforce Help is something I always have open in one of my tabs where I read through things, um, your release notes and things like that. And I still go and do a lot of hands-on using Trailhead for things I cannot use on projects. And the other thing is obviously there's a architect's site that's not developed, which releases a lot of new articles. So yeah, reading through them. So those are the three things I have always open and I keep on reading through.
Yeah, I think pretty much the same resources. Help.salesforce.com is my go-to place because it helps me understand the question that previously been asked by other people. Same architect site. recently launched, really helpful. Trailhead for anything that I'm learning new, plus for release exams as well. So probably, yeah, those are the three resources I use very frequently. I think I've always opened them on my browser. Yeah,
That's really, I'm happy to hear that because that's the common denominator between us that I
Mhm.
hang out on Trailhead as well. So the next question that I have, I'm sure you would have heard quite a bit about, is how easy is to convince your employer to bear the expenses for the CTA exam, or any thoughts about it?
Um, that's a tough one, Fahad. You want to go first with that one?
yeah, I'll take on I'll take on that one. So see, there are benefits of this certification for both employee and employer. Number one benefit, I think previously there was a Salesforce partnership that required every company to have at least one CTA to be able to attain. I think it was platinum status of partnership. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if that has changed, but it used to be the case back in the days. The other thing, it depends upon the type of projects that a company is doing. For large implementation, it has been seen that if you have a CT on the project, you have less issues when it comes to maintainability, scalability, and performance. So it's sort of give that company a credibility of having something who has got deep platform expertise to be able to make sure that things are designed in the right way, because technical debt becomes super expensive once it has been done on a project. Cleaning it up can be very costly. So if we sort of try and evaluate it based on somebody who is making sure that the projects are being done the right way on the platform, that $6,000 cost is nothing. But if you just compare the certification with other domain and architecture certification, it turns out to be a bit costly. But I think if you look at with that lens, it's not that costly. It depends on the type of partner company you are. For a larger partner, CTA certification have always been a focus.
Right. Um, so Sherry, would you like to answer it, or should we move to the next question?
No, we can move it. I think Fahad has covered it. Yep.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I completely understand that we cannot evaluate the work of being a CTA just being, with the price tag of it. The value that the CTA then, goes back to the company and brings to the company is certainly invaluable in the longer term. Um, right. So the next question that I have is that even after COVID, are the CTA exams still happening in person, or had their format changed?
So they have been going in virtual. I don't think they have yet kicked off in person in any region, as per my knowledge. In Australia, at least, it's being virtual.
All right. Okay. So the next question is a little bit of a niche question, more focused one. So, does the B2C commerce knowledge is B2C commerce knowledge needed for the CTA exam?
So I think this kind of this very similar to the question you had earlier around the products. I think this
Hmm.
will fall under that category. Again, there's no uh, clear clear answer here if you need to know it
Hmm.
not. But I think again, it's good to understand the concept, read about it, and know the product well. If you get a similar scenario, you have the knowledge about how would you then architect the solution if you have knowledge about it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, same as Shah, you said. There is no clear direction. I've not seen anybody getting any requirements in the CT exam where B2C or Commerce Cloud was part of it. But
Hmm.
I think as a candidate, you are expected to know the use case when to use B2C Commerce Cloud. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. So the last question that I have is more of a generic question. So we have heard in the ecosystem that there are more astronauts than Salesforce CTAs. So the next question is that what are the benefits in general of being a CTA? Are there any additional perks from Salesforce for CTAs?
Um, so I think you definitely have a lot of perks. As I said, as you said, the CTAs are more rare. So obviously, depending on the partner you work for, you may get perks. But I would also say this the exam really, and again, I wouldn't say all the architects have to be CTAs, but personally for me, it really taught me the art of solving a challenge. Right? I mean,
Mhm.
before I used to possibly do the same thing, but I wasn't as organized. It's really going through the CTA exam has really given me a structure, has made me more organized, helps me with my time management, with all the work I do. So it really teaches you that art as well, other than the technical concepts. It helps you improve your, as Fahad earlier called out, communication skills as well. So I think it helps you with all that. Earlier, Fahad touched on a lot of clients. You get a lot more credibility if you're a CTA. So I think there are a lot of perks that you get along with just that you may get as part of the ecosystem, being in the ecosystem.
Yeah, in addition to what Shayu said, of course, when you complete this exam, it teaches you a lot. It's a massive achievement, and I think every city that I've met of is extremely proud of what they've achieved and how the certification has helped them. Apart from that, from a Salesforce perspective, Salesforce do have an annual CTA conference. I can't really recall the name of it. I think it's Shayu, do you know what's that conference? It's called the
It's the
CTA Summit.
architect, yeah, CTS Summit. Yeah.
CTS Summit. So Salesforce have a CTS Summit every year where they take all the architects in a room and they explain them the future roadmap and what they're working on. They take their feedback very seriously in product development as well. So you get to see a sneak peek and direction from Salesforce where they are building technical feature and investing. Um, I think that's probably, I would say, something very specific to CTA. Once you become a CTA, you get to know about that in addition to whatever we already learned.
Sounds awesome. So these were all the questions I had. Any ending notes from any of you before we end the session?
I think the key from me would be for anyone who's on the journey is not to really get too stressed about the exam and really take it as a learning process, enjoy the learning process. That's how I dealt with it because I know it's a pretty, when you decide to sit for the exam, it's a lot of few months leading to it. It's a lot of pressure and stress that candidates go through. So just focus on the learning side, apply it in your projects, learn from your colleagues, like just have that learning attitude which you will continue even after you pass the exam. So I think that's the biggest tip I could give, to not really stress a lot about the exam and the results and just to enjoy the process.
Yeah, I think pretty much along the same lines. As Shai said, this is a long journey. It won't even stop once you become a CTA because once you get that credibility, you need to make sure that you continue to justify your certification and continue to keep learning as the platform is evolving. And platform is innovating way faster than anybody's capability to be able to learn all of that what they're producing. So I think just have your framework of how you learn and make sure that you continue to use that framework every day to learn. And I think you will achieve that certification and beyond that as well.
Thank you for such great words. As a closing, I would just first I would like to thank both of you for taking out the time to joining us at Pakistan Dreaming. I really appreciate your time, and I certainly have completely renewed view of the CTA exam and the journey altogether now. Initially, before coming in the session, it was something like the end of the game, as they show in the pyramid, right? But it's more like it is a lifelong learning, and you are committing for to learn as long as you are in the ecosystem. It's not just ending there, or it's not something you can just run towards. So thank you very much for your time again, and I hope to see you in um, I mean sometime in the future in the CTA summit maybe.
Thank you. Thanks, Rutha, and thanks for organizing it.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thanks, Mary.
Have a good
Bye.
day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.